After his unexpected and unexplained removal from the governing body, Anthony Morris III has reemerged in the form of an insider leak of his final deleted talk. Meanwhile, Tony's high-ranking son gave a talk at this year's Gilead graduation ceremony, an appointed gesture to rank-and-file witnesses that all is well. It's a tale of two Tonys and more, all on today's... Welcome to the show. My name is Jake, and thank you for joining us on this fine summer evening. We've got things to talk about. This is a live reaction to some leaks from whistleblowers within the organization and the Gilead graduation. If you like more structured video essay-ish debates, stay tuned to this channel because that is exactly what the next video is going to be. I'm about halfway through editing it, and I'm really excited. I think it's good. But enough about me. No, just kidding. We're going to talk about me a lot, almost exclusively. This has all been a ruse. We're not going to talk about Anthony Morris. We've got folks in the chat popping off, and if you are watching this at a later date, this was live, baby. This was unfiltered. But I will put timestamps in the description so you can skip past some of my rambling. Thankfully, though, I am not alone because joining me to discuss this silliness is an esteemed friend and colleague, XJW Caleb.
Hello, everybody. We have Double Morris today. Aren't you excited?
Double Morris. Did you ever think you'd be excited to be double teamed by Morris?
Ooh, I never thought I'd be this excited about. Not this.
You thought you'd be a little excited.
Yeah, I thought I'd be a little
not
excited.
This
Whenever
excited.
it happened in my head. Yeah, just a little bit.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. To give a little context to our viewers, a scant 2 minutes in, by the way. I've never rambled this little up top. Just to give a little bit of context, for those who are not in the know, Anthony Morris, of course, was removed from the governing body several months ago. Now, witnesses watching are going to tell me that we don't know that he was removed. It might have been for health reasons. But generally in the past... Yeah. Generally in the past, people who, just get old, like all governing body members, because a lot of them are pretty old when they're appointed to begin with, they're never removed. They're just kind of retired and put on light duty, so to speak, speaking of terms from Succession. So this was pretty notable. It was random all of a sudden. And so we got this insider leak from, I believe, ex-Bethel Elder on Reddit, perhaps, acting as an intermediary. That's where I first saw it posted about. And just to give a little bit of context for what this is Anthony Morris. This is the aforementioned removed governing body member, defrocked, as it says on the website. A 9-minute video from defrocked governing body member Anthony Morris has recently surfaced, and it might just be one of the last recorded videos of Morris prior to his ejection from the top leadership of the Jehovah's Witness Church. And I don't know about you, Danny, or actually, am I allowed to say your name?
Yeah, it's fine. Doesn't
okay?
I mean, I'm out. It's fine.
I forgot if you said it on your stream. I don't know about you, but I have grown fond of calling the organization in a church recreationally. How do you feel about that?
Oh, calling it a church. Yeah. I think that's good. I think it triggers the right people, and it gives, it's pretty much the same for most people. And the only people that are going to be triggered by it are, the people that we want to be triggered by it. Like, that's it.
True,
but for everybody else, it's pretty much the same, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's kind of my thinking as well. And I just started doing it, I guess, for shorthand for people at work who would ask about what the hell I'm posting about on Facebook all the time. And it's also just true. Obviously, when they are fighting these legal battles, they are using church protection.
Yeah, they always call it. They have no issues calling it a church whenever it's about the legal stuff, just as they have no issues admitting that they have clergy. All of that stuff, I think it's just there to fool the followers into thinking that they have a unique religion. But once push comes to shove, they have no issues admitting that they are a church with clergy and all of that stuff. So yeah, I think you should totally say it because they say it.
Absolutely. And I do want to shout out some lovely messages that we're getting in chat, but I refuse to read them out loud because we're just getting into the introduction. I was doing so good, and now I'm rambling again. So this is mostly is a summary of the talk, but I think what I wanted to get into was the timing of this. When was this recorded exactly? And how is there a video that leaked at all? According to sources, this video had been slated for inclusion in the May 2023 JW Broadcasting episode. It was quietly deleted from that production. Okay, in a rambling and somewhat peculiar speech, to put it lightly, Morris opens by referring to a published daily text from the Jehovah's Witnesses from April 19th of this year. So that is the significant part of that I wanted to get to, because sometimes with these morning worship videos that they post on the website and broadcast, which it appears this is, morning worship is a thing at Bethel for people who work at the headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses. They start every day by reading a daily text and an accompanying Watchtower summary, which is like kind of like an interpretation of how you're supposed to read the text. And then at Bethel, one of the governing body members or helpers or branch overseers gives like a little morning sermon. And so that is what this is. Did you ever have the privilege of going to Bethel while you were a witness, Mr.
Only when I was a little kid, because my father was a Bethelite, so we visited Bethel one time when I was like 8, but we didn't actually sit down for like morning worship. I never ate there. I thought it was really cool.
Now, this is a very important scoop from Ron Pimo. Not scoop, but statement of fact. He was removed in February. Couldn't have been recorded in April. True. April just happened. That doesn't seem right. So, and I'll also say, I think in this video, he looks a lot healthier than he did in like the previous video that I had seen him do. So, I don't know. We'll see. This would be interesting.
I don't know. I was checking the May JW Broadcasting. If he was slated to appear in that, it appears that he would have been removed by Stephen Lett's morning talk, because he had, I can't remember what it was, but yeah, I'm checking, and yeah, there is a morning talk, but this one is by Stephen Lett. So if it was for May in JW Broadcasting, it doesn't seem like they had a lot of an issue replacing him. However, it obviously, like what Stephen Lett talked about, it's obviously not what Tony talked about, which is quite interesting.
Yes. Yeah, so they usually film these months in advance, and as far as the morning worships go, who knows? Maybe they just have, I'm sure they have a bunch of archives of ones that are given every day, and sometimes they're like, hey, let's throw this bad boy up there. We need to fill 8 minutes on broadcast this month. So
yeah, that's how I think it works.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, so here's the video, and this is very odd. It's a very weird talk. I watched it ahead of time. I don't always do that because sometimes I like to get my reaction live, but given the Gilead graduation of it all, which is usually very boring, I wanted to pre-screen. I just couldn't help myself. So without further ado,
pre-watch.
This morning I thought we'd talk about the theme, beware of Satan's temptation.
Now, it is notable that like this has the graphic on it too. So it's not just like the raw footage released from Bethel insiders. Like it was produced to the point where they at least like put the graphic on it and all that stuff. Or I don't know, maybe they just do that for every morning worship internally.
Yeah, I think if it was recorded, it was probably just like recorded and edited like that day, or very quickly, because that's just what you do, like with everything.
Yeah,
I think it was once you do especially if it's like a governing body member, once you record, like that's it. It just it gets edited and everything just to get it ready for whenever, because it is going to be used most likely, especially if it's a governing body member. How are they gonna not use the voice?
Right, that's a good point. That's a good point. Okay,
to make you smoke.
Okay, I feel like this is.
This morning I thought we'd talk about the theme, beware of Satan's temptation to make you smoke. Some might be thinking
I'm not
cigarettes.
Now, yes, immediately.
This is
By the way,
this is a cigar with it's, I think it's 25% nicotine is what they told me.
Is
So
it like,
it's
are you like allowed to smoke nicotine on YouTube, but not anything else? Is that like a rule?
no, I think if you're in a legal space, like it doesn't matter. I mean, Joe Rogan smoked a joint. Not Joe Rogan, but
True.
Elon Musk.
Oh, definitely.
Joe
Yes,
Rogan's
he
podcast. It
did.
was fine.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, I think it's totally fine.
And
But I like to just say that it is nicotine because it's smoking cigarettes is very cool.
it's so cool, but he's
It's
not
very
talking
cool.
about that. You foolishly may have thought that because
Damn
he
it, why
said
is he
Satan
talking about?
wants
Let's
you
stop
to.
interrupting him.
Okay, sorry.
Cigars, pipes. No, we're talking about the way Satan himself smoked many years ago. Now, let me explain. Find a scripture that was cited in the comments in 1 Timothy chapter 3. And he's providing these qualifications for a man reaching out to be a...
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't even think about the fact that I was going to be smoking weed while talking about the talk that talks about not smoking.
Yeah,
That is a nice
of
bit of
course.
synergy.
Yeah, I think it's just like, and I'm gonna be honest. I didn't think that I would be smoking about this in this topic. Not because I didn't think that I would be smoking, just because I forgot what the topic was about.
That's,
But
yeah, I
mean,
did too. I did too. Now,
Satan sounds like a really good
No.
guy to have in your rotation. He would bring the most dank ass stuff, man. Like,
stanky weed.
yeah, dude. Yeah, no, 100%. He would totally hog that pipe. Like, I mean, come on, he's Satan. But
Well,
man, once you get it, it will be very dank.
He's going to talk about being selfless, not being prideful. I want to shout out. I believe this is Alt Wifey. I can confirm real quick. Hey, is that you? Okay, yeah, it is. I don't want to be pranked or doxxed or taken in by some imposer. And yes, famously, Sir Tony Morris is obsessed with smoke. In one of his last talks, he talked about, the devil's going to snuff out his enemies like smoke. And so this is very strange.
And he used to smoke.
overseer.
Did he used to smoke? Is that part of his?
Yeah, he said that he used to. He said that when he was in the army, he used to smoke. But then
That's right. It's in his life story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
About being irreprehensible, hospitable, and other requirements. And
Irreprehensible.
then we get to verse 6, not a newly converted man. So what's the issue with a newly converted man? Because of this fear. So it's looking out for the interests of the person as well as the congregation.
This has nothing to do with anything he's going to talk about. I don't know why he's getting into all this. Keep an eye on whatever the hell he's saying.
He's delirious.
For fear that he might get puffed up with pride and fall into the judgment passed on the devil. Now, literally in the Greek, puffed up with pride is be made to smoke. So
this is the explanation for why he's talking about smoking. To be made of smoke? Is that what he said?
I think he said to be made to smoke. So like
Let's listen to this again.
be made to smoke.
To be made to smoke.
Yeah, I feel like
That's
he
very
meant,
confusing.
Like somebody would be made into smoke by, I assume, burning. In not in hell though, but by meteorite. I don't know.
Check me on this, chat. But I think he's searching for an analogy here the whole time. I think what he's trying to say is somebody that is full of hot air. That is an actual expression that would go along with the sense of being puffed up with pride. But he never says that. He just says surrounded by smoke or with smoke or there's a bunch of smoke in you. It's very...
That actually makes sense. It's like he wanted to make the connection, but he didn't finish making the connections, so you just it just ends up being weird. But if you
only there was a
listen
phrase
to it with that understanding, I think it makes more sense. Like the talk certainly makes more sense. Yeah, I think
that's what I'm going to say.
Right.
Yeah. So listen to what he's saying with the framework of being full of hot air or whatever.
So the point there being that if you're made to smoke.
Listen, I am so annoyed by this shit every stream. This is a commentary channel. You can watch the link in the description the point of watching YouTube is to watch people talk about the things. So no, I'm going to pause it more now. And I'm getting a little puffed up with pride, frankly. No, but yeah, I did forget to say, I put the link in the description to this article if you just want to watch it by itself.
You're wrapped in smoke. Now, if I was sitting here wrapped in smoke, I couldn't see myself clearly, and you couldn't see others clearly because you're wrapped in smoke, see? So
Sure.
to be wrapped in smoke.
Do you miss his catchphrase? Sure.
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 Of course.
He loves
I miss
doing
him.
that.
I missed all of him. All of his gigantic forehead. It's all forehead. I love all of him.
Yeah. I think a lot of chat's getting wrapped in smoke.
Smoke puffed up with pride is offensive to Jehovah God. And one reference made this interesting observation.
It's pocket, yeah.
Such a man, quote, is blind with pride or conceit. They are beclouded and stupid, in a beclouded and stupid state of mind.
In a beclouded and stupid state of mind.
I love that he stumbled on it. Like, are you talking about you, Tony? Is that you?
Yeah. If you're gonna stumble,
do you have something to smoke and you're stupid right now? Is that what you're trying to tell us? Is that why you're not in the governing body? Because hey, I get it, man. I get it. I can't say that I do that kind of stuff. I can't condone that, of course, but I get it.
It's true. I do feel like if you're gonna stumble, it's unfortunate to stumble on the word stupid. It's kind of like Dwight in The Office saying that he misspelled in front of the entire class the word failure for the spelling bee.
Exactly. Exactly.
As the result of pride. Now, if you go back to 1 Timothy 3:6 and focus on it there, what makes the verse so fear-inspiring is that you or myself could fall into the judgment passed on the devil if you give in to his temptation to make us smoke. See? And think about it with this proverb in mind. Proverbs chapter 16.
Think about what? Like, what is this? What is he even talking about? You could, okay, so this verse is puffed up with pride, but in the Greek it says being full of smoke or made to smoke. So if you think about a lot of smoke, you couldn't see things if there was a lot of smoke.
See?
And so,
makes a lot of sense to me. And like if you're puffed up with smoke, you can't see stuff, which is why you have to pass the joint. So, smoke goes somewhere else.
Somebody pointed out, like this is obviously ancient Greek. There isn't a modern equivalent, but that's kind of the problem, right? He's trying to like
that. Yeah, it's like if I said, I don't know, give me a what is like a comment, like, oh, you can't have your cake and eat it, like that kind of stuff. And if I said, well, cake has frosting. So what this means is that we need to put some frosting in what we say with other people. Like, no, the fact that yeah, I understand that it is in the ancient Greek. That doesn't mean whatever you want it to mean, which is what he obviously is wanting to mean, because he's like, well, when you're puffed up with smoke, you can't see around yourself. I'm imagining, right?
That's a great analogy. The piece of cake thing is so good. I want to figure out at some point as a bit, like the future, 200 years from now, language is completely changed, but somehow witnesses still exist. Like, what is the governing body? Is like, now the ancient expression, which we don't have a direct analog today, is it's piece of cake. And a cake was this thing that was served at birthday parties. So it was obviously something that was bad, because birthday parties are bad, or trying to get the meaning of smoke. I don't know. It's fine.
That is literally fine. That is how you do. That is how you do illustrations in a Jehovah's Witness way, and that's how you apply the Bible in a Jehovah's Witness way. It's just whatever it applies with the already predefined doctrine. Then if it's already in the predefined doctrine, then you're good. It's probably okay.
Yeah.
And well-known verse, but think about what happened here. And what a warning. Verse 18 of Proverbs 16, pride is before a crash, and a haughty spirit before stumbling. So pride is before a crash. So Satan crashed because of his pride. He was made to smoke, haughty, just wrapped in smoke. And Jehovah gave him the judgment of eternal death. He'll be abyssed for 1,000 years, and then the judgment of eternal death. And he has to deal with that every day.
You see?
So there's a lot to talk about here. I want to shout out TB to something useful. He plugged the Greek into GPT for the original Koine Greek. The word is derived from the verb which means to be conceited or to be haughty. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, and haughty sounds like hot air, which is like puffed up with pride, with hot air.
The thing that's
it works.
The thing I'm criticizing is like the verse is already clear, like pride, puffed up with pride. I understand, but he's like, but it means smoke and like being surrounded with smoke, and like that makes it more.
And you wouldn't be able to see if you were surrounded with smoke.
We're getting farther away from the like pride and being haughty and arrogant. Those things don't really feel connected. But also, he is talking about something that. Oh, sorry, I got a little distracted because it seems I have a parallel thought with some of the people in chat. But wait, that's not what I wanted to. Okay, yeah, Tony crashed. He's talking about the delicious irony of this is that he's talking about pride before a crash, and then he is the first governing body member since like the great purge of the Ray Franz days to be removed. So it's a little awkward, but some people are pointing to something that apparently JW Thought said in his channel that actually sounds kind of like what I was thinking. So that's interesting. We'll get into what my conspiracy theory is on this.
And not going to change somebody like him because he's wrapped in smoke. He allowed ambition to consume him. Yes, we gain insight on what made the devil smoke, and he'd like the rest of us to smoke.
This is just, it doesn't work. It doesn't work if you're, this means something else now to say somebody
you failed now. You failed at what you were trying to say. Just give it up already. Just give it up. It's just, he's trying to drag this analogy and being like, no, it makes sense. It still makes sense. It doesn't. It never made sense.
Satan's trying to get you to smoke, but not like cigarette. I mean, he does want you to do that, and that would also be bad, but that's not what I'm talking about. Okay, great. You're one of the great teachers. I can see why Jesus chose you, at least for a little while, to sit at his side.
Yeah, he's really good.
Arrogant. He pitted himself against the Almighty Jehovah God. He desired worship. And we know he desired worship because notice here in Matthew chapter 4, and you'll remember this is all well known. The account here when the devil's tempting Jesus, and he's getting to the final one here, and you can see why he's after worship here. It's very obvious. Man.
Yeah, it is very obvious. And everything he's about to say about this is so obvious. It really annoys me when, like, this is something I didn't love about Witnesses, even when I was in, is that so much of what they call deep analysis is just kind of restating what the verse very clearly says and then extrapolating like way too much from it.
Exactly.
So he's going to get into this thing you've heard a million times if you're a witness, which is that Satan tried to tempt Jesus. And the way he did it was very sneaky. It was one of the most sneaky temptations ever. He's like, hey, it's me, Satan. I'm going to tempt you with something. But Jesus, he wasn't tricked. He saw it coming. He saw through Satan.
Through the smoke.
He saw through the smoke. Satan directly is like, hey, it's me, Satan, your worst enemy. Can I trick you to do some stuff? And Jesus said, no. It was the most brave thing that anyone's ever done.
Matthew chapter 4, and we'll read verses 8 through 10. Again, the devil took him along to an unusually high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world.
He's a charismatic speaker.
And their glory. And he said to him, all these things I will give you if you fall down and do an act of worship to me. Well, Jesus' quick response said to him, go away, Satan, For it is written, it is Jehovah your God you must worship,
Go away,
and it is to
Satan.
him alone you must render sacred service. So here's the account. We just get a glimpse of what actually happened. Apparently showed him some sort of way by means of a vision, all the kingdoms of the world, all the glory, and it was very real.
Not by means of a vision, by the way. He didn't show it by the means of a vision. The verse is very clear. Satan took him to a very the mountain that was very high, so high that you can see the whole world. And he's like, I will give all of this to you. Tony is like, he again, is what you were saying. He's examining the Bible and like deep reading in the Bible by just adapting it into whatever the Jehovah's Witness narrative is. We know that the world isn't flat. We know that it would not make sense that there's not a single mountain that is tall enough for you to see the whole world, because that's impossible. So he's like, oh, then it must have been a vision, and that is the right way of reading it. It's just kind of word salad to just get to whatever the doctrine is, and that's it.
I gotta say though, I mean, the verse did say that the mountain was unusually high. So when you think about it that way, he might be able to see the whole world. No, I always thought it was a vision.
I never thought of that.
As a witness. Like I always, I remember they used to try and like pinpoint where it was and all the kingdoms he could have seen from the mountain. Like they used to try and justify it not being
I don't
a
remember
vision.
that.
Yeah, I always thought it was stupid. And then I feel like it's only relatively recently that they're like, no, it's a vision.
Yeah, I just remember like the image of like the Satan with the hand, and then there's like the kingdoms, and that's what Satan showed him. And so that's why I thought it was a vision, because every time that I read the verse, with the Watchtower or whatever, it was shown as a vision to us, but not because the verse actually says that it's a vision. The verse is very clear.
I did
Go
like
away,
his
Satan.
I liked his line read, This is as much enthusiasm as he's capable of mustering.
Yes.
Go away,
Yes.
Satan.
Yes, that he was so enthusiastic about it. He was almost like dramatic reading that part. It's hilarious. It's adorable.
He passed that particular theocratic assignment with flying colors.
The experience, but that's in what power he has, and don't need to delve deep into that. But notice his arrogance. All these things in the kingdoms, I'll give them to you. Just do an active worship. He didn't say continuous worship.
I know, Tony. It's not a very complicated series of words. Just do one act of worship. Now, what he's saying here is that it's just one, not a bunch of acts, but just one.
He wasn't asking for food. He wasn't asking to go to Walmart and do some errands. Like we understand. We understand what it's not about, Tony. Like we understand it.
Jehovah didn't say he might do it. He said that he would do it. Did you notice that? Yes, I noticed the only obvious thing that the words were saying.
One act. Say one act, and I'll give you all of this. Say now. You can see he's wrapped in smoke when we have all this other knowledge of Scripture.
We can see that he's wrapped in smoke.
If you were a son of God, he brings up in these tests.
Okay, this I thought was really strange here to get into this part, and so I didn't expect to spend quite this much time on this talk. But again, the very obvious point of this is that Satan is taunting Jesus, saying like, "Hey, if you're so special, do this." Like to play to his pride. But Tony's reading of it is really weird. If I understood it correctly when I was watching it earlier, he's like saying that Satan was so blinded by the smoke in front of him that he forgot that Jesus was the Son of God and was earnestly being like, hey, if you're the Son of God, jump off this cliff and angels will save you. It's like, maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I feel Tony is presenting it.
I think let's watch it because
he knows that Christ Jesus was the firstborn of all creation. Now, you're just so consumed with ambition, you put that out of your mind. If you're a son of God, this is the only begotten Son of God.
You see, he's saying like Satan's so fucking crazy. He forgot that Jesus is the Son of God. It's like, no. Why else would he be wanting to tempt Jesus of all people?
Right, Jesus, you're right.
I don't understand this.
and you're going to try to tempt him to worship you. You talk about arrogance, see,
Sure.
puffed up with pride. He really apparently thought maybe the temptation's going to work. So he couldn't see himself or Jesus clearly because of his beclouded and stupid state of mind.
Be clouded, I feel is a redundant. I feel it's redundant to add be to clouded. I think whether you are if you have a clouded mind or a be clouded mind, it means the same thing.
He meant bi clouded. It's like you have two clouds instead of one.
That's right.
That's what he meant. No, but you're totally right. He's like, Satan didn't. He had already forgot that he was spoke to the Son of God. So he totally thought that he had a chance. See, like it's he's totally reading a meaning over there, like over reading the Bible to the point of I don't know, just to the point of this. You know what it is? This is the overreading of the Bible that they used to do back in the day. I feel like they don't do that anymore. But back then, you would have like a 40 paragraph article about like one detail of the like the bride illustration or whatever, because it was just like this masturbatory thing of just reading a lot of stuff into the Bible. So I think that's why it jumps up to us, because it's the kind of doctrinal stuff that we just don't see anymore.
Yeah, but they weirdly like I think the reason why they do that is because they reject so much of the mysticism that allows for a lot of like weird esoteric readings of scripture that you see in certain like strains of like Christian apologia, like taking a really cosmic, spiritual, mystic worldview, but they kind of reject all of that stuff in a really strange way. So like they can only do this really didactic thing of like Satan was really there. And he said this, and he's so stupid he forgot.
Yes.
So anyway,
he forgot who he was talking to. That's
he forgot.
The only explanation. See, the only explanation.
This isn't even the interesting thing about this talk, weirdly. So let's get into this more.
I know he's not going to appreciate my morning worship. The governing body's already being targeted like never before by this wicked one. So
this, I want to play this part again because he says something very odd about the governing body being tested.
Like never before by this wicked one. So already being the governing body's already being targeted like never before by this wicked one. So that's the way it is. We stand by Jehovah's side.
Great. So this is really, really odd, I think, because if you are, to accept their interpretation of scripture, right? And most Christian denominations, no, sorry, scratch that. But like Witnesses and the Mormons believe that true worship ended, at the end of the first century. But Witnesses say that the first century congregation was led by a governing body. And that's just true and canonical. But they also believe that the reason why, all those apostles died was because they were martyred and killed for being Christian. So how is whatever's happening with them, being asked to go to a deposition or something, worse than being actually killed for real?
Well, I think what he means is your theory. Because originally, when I heard this, I was like, "Oh, this is just the usual self-grandiose talk from the governing body. Oh, we are martyrs. We're fighting for your rights for as Jehovah's Witnesses, and we are targeted more than anybody." That's how I originally read it. But as we were talking about before, there's a third way of reading this that I find it very, very interesting.
Yes, I've actually starred a comment to come back to later that is what I'm thinking. So let's finish this and get into needless and ill-advised speculation.
And we recognize we worship Jehovah, the true God, period. So all of us, including our sisters, got to beware of the devil trying to make us smoke or be wrapped in pride. We don't want to allow personal pride to take us down that path that Satan took.
I wish we could, like, Chloe and 24 zoom and enhance on this document with his little notes and highlights.
Oh yeah. I wish. I wonder what those notes and highlights are. Like, no,
Pewter.
this is bad. I'll add C over here. Not enough C's.
Yeah.
See, and don't
Safe.
think it can't happen. You can get wrapped in smoke.
So I should make a C supercut, right? Because that's been on my docket for a while.
Please.
It's just so overwhelming to think about how much it would be, because now, almost thankfully, many of his videos are now not on the website, so I would have to do some digging to find them. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to do a C supercut
With pride. So just in conclusion, I thought you'd appreciate the reminders and their published thoughts in the Insight book, Volume 2, under the subject of pride. Good counsel. We want to take it to heart. And here's what was stated, and then the heading here: pride is deceptive and destructive. The proud person may not recognize that he is proud and may attribute his actions to other causes in order to avoid facing the fact of his pride.
The no you debate. No, you're the one not thinking about your pride, brother so-and-so.
Each person should examine himself and his motives thoroughly to determine whether he has this bad trait. So it's a personal examination. Pray about it, and Jehovah, please help me to avoid that. And then it went on to state, pride should therefore be rooted out of one's personality for one's own benefit. More important, it must be done if a person hopes to please God. One must even come to hate it. God's word says, in the quoting Proverbs 8:13, the fear of Jehovah means the hating of bad. Self-exaltation and pride and the bad way and the perverse mouth I have hated. So by hating self-exaltation and pride, we will not be made to smoke.
Okay, so some of you in class are ahead of me. Where the hell is this video I gotta remove? It's that. Okay, so I apparently am not alone in thinking that this appears to be about something else, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, maybe
this appears to be personal, if you know what I mean. It's like he's basically saying, so some people need to know that they're being, like, I'm not going to name any names, but some people need to know that they're not being very, very humble. They're being very proud.
Especially younger ones. Especially people who are younger than him specifically.
Yes, especially younger. Oh my God. Yeah, this is kind of specific if you think about it.
Satan's not going to like this video. So yeah, okay. So my thought that I had watching this, and I messaged Caleb about this, is like, okay, let's wind the clocks back to Fred Franz, right? Fred Franz in the I believe it would be the 80s, perhaps, or the 70s. You can read about this on JW Facts, and maybe if I had been thinking, I would have put it up on the screen or pulled it up. But you can look this up on JW Facts in their article about the governing body and the history of how it developed in the organization. But basically, not everybody agreed that there should be a governing body, especially not the then president, Fred Franz, who at a convention gave a talk about how the scriptures make it clear that there is no such thing as a governing body. This would have been a very strange talk to most witnesses, and it would have seemed like, what is he talking about? Because the governing body arrangement, as we know it, didn't really exist then. But in hindsight, it's clear that it was reflective of inner turmoil at the time. I think my conspiracy that I was worried this was going to be a leap, but everybody apparently thinks the same thing. I had set aside a few comments to shout out. Do we think he's talking about the governing body? Yeah, I think that it seems to me, if I can put on my tinfoil hat, that he is maybe talking about some kind of interpersonal conflict that happened. And maybe Ron Pimo, if he's still in chat, can correct me on this, but I believe the timing of it worked out. Or maybe Danny, like those two new guys were appointed to the governing body, and then shortly after that, he was removed. Am I remembering that right?
No, I think it was the opposite. He got removed, and then, oh man, am I misremembering it?
I think
I'm pretty sure he got removed, and then maybe somebody can help us in chat. But I'm pretty sure he got removed, and then they added the other ones because it was. Oh man, I honestly can't remember now.
I think it was just before, and it was kind of odd in hindsight because it seemed like maybe it says Jake wins.
Dang it!
2 added, then removed. I've got multiple people on my side saying I'm winning and you're losing. Failing with facts and logic.
I am willing to say everybody is wrong except me.
You're willing to say that?
Yeah. I'm willing to say that.
It's a brave stance. Well, I think that's what Tony is saying. I think that's what he's saying in this talk.
I'm with Tony on this one.
But yes, it feels like a pointed criticism of something. There's been speculation that he was pushed out. They bring in these 2 young bucks. Not too terribly long after Kenneth Cook is appointed. And then Sanderson was brought in, I guess now probably like close to 10 years ago or something. So there is an old guard and a young guard. And I guess I do wonder if anything happened there. He's mad about something.
Yeah, because he is from the older generation. And obviously... I've heard a lot of things about like Mark Sanderson and how he seems to be, the guy who's like, I would say that he's the most energetic in the governing body. I feel like the one
Sanderson?
That seems to be, the one that seems to be the most action driven, the one that seems to want to do a lot. So I would imagine that he would have a lot of ideas and he would have a lot of say into who's coming into the governing body. So it's interesting that Tony Morris directly talks about younger people and how like the younger people may be victims of this smoke, because that would mean that he didn't like either Mark Sanderson or the new guys.
Yeah, it's interesting, as we remarked upon in a stream around this time, like I would think if I was trying to reconstruct the crime scene that like there would be some rift between, surrounding maybe this move that the organization has been making towards more video material, more digitized output. But that's not like Anthony Morris was clearly at the head of that stuff. He's the face of Caleb and Sophia and was the one who gave that project the green light. Like all of that stuff seems like what he wanted to happen. So I don't think, here's all I'm trying to say is we don't know what's going on, but I think they know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be something necessarily public, because it can be something like how funds are managed, or like how True. Internal organizational stuff is done that he hates, like that they changing that. Maybe they love all of the doctrinal changes and all of the public changes that they're doing, but there's a lot of internal stuff that we simply will never know. And there are so many things that they could have been changing from all of that stuff that he may or may not have liked. I think that there's a lot of ways. There are a lot of ways where they could have rubbed the wrong way. Tony Moore is somebody who we know even tight pants rub him the wrong way, which not even the right way. I think they rubbed him the wrong way because he was like, I'm gonna get some tight pants because technically I can't masturbate, but I've been reading about this, and then he's like, never again. These are just designed by the gays. They don't even jack you off. It's a lie.
Elephant Man is
That's my
asking late
conspiracy
to the
theory.
party what's going on. You picked a heck of a time to tune in with that little riff there. But yeah, we are examining the last, we believe perhaps his last words on camera, Anthony Morris. They leaked and they
Last
are
of the last
weird.
words.
And if you want to watch them, the link is in the description. So you can just watch the whole thing on avoidjw.org. So now one thing that I think is a little weird about this, if I'm still in conspiracy mode, if I would be
Please.
surprised that this would ever make it on a broadcast because it seems so inside baseball that it must have, like, let's say that he is trying to give some kind of marking talk, as somebody in chat noted, to somebody he has beef with. I would think that would immediately annoy the shit out of the rest of the governing body, and it would be something that they would not want to put in a broadcast. But then, I mean, they didn't. They literally didn't. They deleted it.
Yeah,
So
but
I
I think the governing body kind of has like some sway, especially Tony Morris, because he's like higher up into all of the video making stuff.
Yeah.
They kind of have like some sway on what goes into the JW Broadcasting. I don't imagine everybody has equal saying in what's going to JW Broadcasting. I think it's maybe this is why he may have gotten removed. Even like we don't know. Maybe the fact that he was so bold into this, it was like, no, he's a loose cannon. Tony Morris is a loose cannon. We gotta restrain him somehow. Like it's just there are a lot of possibilities. I'm not saying I'm not saying that's definitely what happened. I'm just pointing out at all of the possibilities that could have happened that we unfortunately just have to speculate because we may never know. And until Tony Morris comes here and he's like, all right, boys, I'm gonna give you all of the stuff on the governing body. See, like until that happens, we're never gonna know.
Yeah, they are. It definitely seems like they like boring company men with very little charisma. Not a lot of Riz. Perhaps Rizless, one might argue. Like all these new guys are just generic, boring. It's like Kenneth Cook, boring. Gage Flegel, boring. The other, and you only remember him because his name is Gage Flegel, and whoever the other guy is,
it's a made up name. It's a made up name.
We only remember him because his name is made up and fake. It's a lie.
It's a memorable made up name.
Yeah. It does sound like the name that you would make up if you were doing a prank phone call. I'm Dr. Gage Flegel. Okay, so the other interesting dynamic of this is that he is removed, old Anthony Morris, but his son is featured on this month's edition of JW Broadcasting, which is the Gilead graduation, which is confusing. But yes, Gilead graduation, it is a program that I believe is 5 months. It's mentioned at some point, and it is a training program for couples, and I think maybe single people can go too. But I think mostly couples who like go, they train, they go to this intensive internal course to train to become essentially middle managers for the organization.
Yeah, to push the narrative of the organization, of whatever the organization wants to be what they call company man, organization man. How do they call it?
Well, I would say company man. I don't know if they would say that. Yeah, I don't know what the word would be, but it is definitely a big theme of the Gilead graduation. But because it is kind of a weird graduation ceremony for this course, it is often very boring. So we're not going to watch the whole thing in its entirety. I've pulled some timestamps of moments I thought were interesting. But most interesting is that Jesse Morris, Anthony Morris's own son, the eldest boy, is featured on the program. And that is very odd. It's very strange that his dad was just removed from the top tier governing body, but they trot him out.
However, it makes sense though, because we do know that there was some sort of like internal communication. I can't remember what it was exactly, that mentioned how it wasn't polite. Basically, it basically mentioned how you shouldn't be asking them like why Tony Morris was removed. Like there was some internal communication, saying that Bethel was taking cards in the matter and saying, no, please don't ask him about his dad. Please just let him be. And now it makes sense. Like if he was going to be like in the Gilead graduation and next to a lot of people, it makes a lot of sense that they would send that out in advance. So he wouldn't spill the beans, I guess, because I would imagine that everybody would be like, oh man, brother, this was very good. Anyway, how's your dad?
Yeah. I bet your dad really liked your talk, right? How's he doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Did I pause it on the greatest frame of all time, perhaps?
Yes.
By the way,
look at that.
I have been zoning out staring at this. That's wild. How fun. Well,
Talking
yes.
about the passing of the guard. Look at from old to new.
Now, the thing that this reminds me of, trotting out Jesse Morris, is it is a very culturally specific thing to Jehovah's Witnesses to pull a move like this. My memory of in congregations that I was in, if an elder was removed for something that was not a sin, sorry, I shouldn't even say removed, they stepped down, their wife gets sick and they have to step down to take care of her, or they can't carry out their assignments because they're elderly and infirm, maybe they'll step down as an elder. But because they just give a generic announcement at the meetings and everyone's going to wonder, was he like watching porn or something? They will have the elder give like the closing prayer at the meeting to signify to the congregation, everything's okay. He didn't sin. You don't need to worry about it.
If he's good enough to do the final prayer, then he's good enough for you to chat. Like if he's chatting with Jehovah, he's chatting with you. Don't worry about it. Basically, that's a policy.
Yeah. I think that's what they're going for here. Like, see, his son's okay with it, everybody. So you should be too. Okay. Oof. You didn't just step in a time machine to 2001. This is not young Anthony Morris. This is the boy. This is the eldest boy. I don't actually know if that's true, but it also wasn't true when Kendall said it on Succession.
Jesseny Morris.
Jesseny Morris. Their celebrity couple name. Joni.
The greatest honor anyone can have.
Let's bask in that, just pretend that I'm zooming in on his face, right?
Jesus Christ, the pregnant pause.
The greatest honor anyone can have is to be called a servant of the Most High God, Jehovah.
If he says C, I'm gonna lose it. That's it.
See, I was waiting when I was watching this earlier. I was like, does he do it? I don't think he does. I was wondering, but this is apropos to the rebuttal that I'm doing to the convention. That's like the streams of which have leaked. I'm doing kind of like a more video essay kind of deconstruction of the convention. And I think one of the thing that you have to understand about Jehovah's Witnesses that they don't say specifically in the symposium I'm talking about, but he just said right here, is that there is no greater honor in the entire world than being called a servant of Jehovah. So what he's saying is the most important thing in the world is to be a Jehovah's Witness. That is the most important thing. Not your kids, not your dad, but being a Jehovah's Witness. So
yeah, he's definitely not saying the most important thing you can be called is a good son. Like, no, not really.
So there you go.
And as you've seen from your deep study of God's word, servants of Jehovah also have distinct personality traits and qualities that are called to mind when their names are mentioned. For example, what qualities or traits do you think of when we mention the following names?
All right, so I've planned a game for us, Danny. I need you at full attention.
Yes.
We're going to go through the governing body, except for the one whose name I don't remember, because I did forget about him until right now.
Of course.
I'm going to give you their name. I want you to just give me a one word that comes to mind when you think of him.
Okay.
What he is about to do with these Bible characters. Okay. So, Anthony Morris III.
Booze. Jesus. That's terrible.
Stephen Lett.
Face.
Faith. David Splain.
Splaining. He's always
Splaining.
explaining something. Come on.
True.
That's too easy. He really has the best name. He's always explaining something. He's always condescendingly explaining something. He can't just explain something to you.
Now, the name Splain in the ancient Greek means this. No. Okay, Mark Sanderson.
Smile.
That's smile. How nice is this one?
He's a smile talker. That's everything I can see.
Garrett Loesch.
Old.
Sam Hurd.
Extra old.
Extra,
like the extra golden token. Can I say that?
Ken Cook. Kenny.
Oh, just boring.
I think I would say the same thing. Gage Flegel.
That's not a real name. Is that one word?
False.
That is just one word. The word is not a real name.
The other guy.
Honestly, the word that it's insane because I'm like, the first word that came out was blank. And then I'm like, am I blanking? And I'm like, no. That is how I can better describe it. He's just like a blank of whatever the governing body is.
Oh God, I forgot one.
He wants to be.
I forgot a big one. Jeffrey Jackson.
Oh, Australia. Yes.
Australia. Yeah, there you go.
Australia.
Boy, oh boy, where's the fucking list of the governing body members?
That's it, though, right?
That is it, but I just want to know this guy's fucking name.
It's Gage Flegel and
God, there's so many people. Just give me the list.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, here it is. Jeffrey Winder.
There you go.
Or Winder. Yeah, I did not have that one in any
he
pocket
sounded like
in my house.
The guy from Community, like the main guy.
Jeff Winger.
I knew that he sounded like somebody in Community.
Yeah, Jeff Winger. He sounds like Jeff Winger. I wonder if he does the Winder guarantee.
Ruth. Gideon.
No, those aren't the guys.
David. Martha.
Batman
yes,
and
the name
Superman's
of a servant of Jehovah can call to mind certain qualities, certain traits that are worthy of imitation.
He has
Saint
basically the
Martha.
same voice too. Isn't that interesting?
And the same cadence. The
Same cadence. People, I do have a very similar speaking voice and cadence to my dad, I will say. And I have recently developed his laugh, which I find upsetting.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
It's just started happening.
Christ. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It kind of just happens. And then you just hear yourself and you're like, what the fuck just happened? Yeah.
Right?
It's just weird. It's just weird. It's the worst. And then you can't tell anybody because everybody's like, oh, that's adorable. No, it's not adorable. Okay. It's not. It's not.
Right. No. I'm like, no, I don't like him. He shoots me. Folks, we're all just trying to not be our dads. Anyway,
Exactly.
Back to this guy.
So, what will you be called? As you begin your new assignment, what quality or trait would you like your fellow workers to think about when your name is mentioned?
He's Tony Morris without the slur, without the slurring.
He's
I think
young
that's what
Lee
I'm hearing.
Morris.
And he smiles. I don't think
a little. He tries to. He tries to.
he does try.
He tries to give his most human-like smile.
The old John Collage try. I do want to shout out, by the way, a couple super chats I failed to mention, one of which has a question that I will get to at the end because that seems like a juicy one. But thank you to Mark for $10. And
Sorry.
I don't know how to pronounce that. Somebody still explain that most Bible scholars are atheists. He fancies himself one and references them all the time. No, it's true. He loves him some Bible scholarship, but not really, because he can only read like the most tired Ken Ham ass motherfuckers, like Bible literalists.
Yeah, the latest thing he was saying in the convention that popped out is that he was saying how Abigail maybe knew that David was good. Not only that David was going to be good and not kill Nabal if she like ran to him, because maybe
Wow.
she had heard about how he had forgiven Saul's life before.
Maybe.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
how
Why
would,
not?
like, who, like, where would she have read, like, did she see it on the news? Like, what the hell?
Right. Like,
Yeah,
how would
no,
she have
it's
heard?
exactly. But no, yeah, you're right. Like, it's just the most pretend intellectual stuff.
Yes, it is. It's just what they view as intellect, most would view as fan fiction, you know? Like
Exactly.
what they're basically providing is like Star Wars expanded universe novels. Like,
Yes.
okay, you want to understand like how Luke got that green lightsaber between the Empire and Jedi. If you read the novelization, you know, you can,
Here is like, this is fanfic, and just imagine the Bible, but everybody, instead of God telling them to go on quests, everybody has assignments. Okay, we call them assignments, and it's just like your assignment of cleaning the bathroom. Okay, if everyone has assignments, and everybody calls God Jehovah,
yeah.
even in the New Testament.
People think that it's some big plot hole that the Empire left a big hole in the Death Star, but what if there was a guy who worked on it who didn't want to work for the Empire, and so he built a secret destruction thing in there, and it was on purpose, and it was called Project Stardust, and his daughter was Jyn Erso, and we named our cat Urso after that character.
Are you saying that the Jehovah's Witnesses are the Rogue One of the Christian cinematic
I would
universe?
never say that because I love Rogue One. They are the
Which
Clone
one?
Wars animated movie with baby Jabba the Hutt, Stinky the Hutt.
Score? Or is it revealed by being the first to provide a solution in a group setting or perhaps at a meeting? Well, let's keep reading verse 21. And
yeah, so what he's talking about is like, don't be the first to say something and stir up shit, which is actually kind of interesting because it is very much a contrast of, or maybe not a contrast, but it's in line with what Anthony Morris was saying in his talk. Like, don't be prideful and come in thinking you're hot shit. It's kind of the same vibe in a way.
Maybe he coached him.
He coached him. Oh my God, Jesse is Anthony Morris's puppet.
Yes.
Anthony Morris is now deep state.
The father is
positive,
the son.
persuasive
It's
speech.
like, yeah.
Now, this is more than just being optimistic or the power of positive thinking. Understanding has a source. Please turn to Proverbs, this time chapter 9, and we'll read verse 10.
Double based.
It's Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10.
True.
The fear of Jehovah is the beginning of wisdom.
True. This guy didn't learn about props from his dad. You got to light shit on fire in these talks, you know? You got to really give him some flair.
Show us the smoke that your dad was talking about. You know what?
Yeah.
Maybe he was like, talk about the smoke, and the son was like, no, then they'll know you sent me, father.
I can't believe I didn't say that before, but I could not believe. I thought for sure he was going to whip out the matches again for that talk. As soon as he started talking about smoke, I'm like, what is with Anthony Morris and smoke?
Yes, he's like, is this a Stephen Litt last of the last day scenario where that's just going to be his thing? Like, he just brings up matches to talk about smoke? I 100% agree.
Right. Okay, well, we're watching this because he says something particularly noteworthy.
And knowledge of the most holy
Not
one.
this shit.
Just think for a moment of what happened after the tragic, painful rebellion in the Garden of Eden. What did Jehovah do?
This is wild.
Immediately, he put the facts together. He saw the complete picture. And then he uttered the Edenic promise, a positive promise that gives us hope, even right after that painful tragedy.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is insane and nonsensical theologically, right? Because if they believe that Jehovah is like all-knowing and all-powerful, then like there wouldn't have needed to be a moment where God is like a detective putting together the facts of the case and synthesizing them and like going through his options, right? Like, wouldn't he have just automatically known the right thing to do?
No. That's not the God of the Jehovah's Witness. The God of the Jehovah's Witnesses, remember, the God of the Jehovah's Witness isn't even omnisapient. Like he sometimes doesn't even know what's going to happen in the future. Like with Adam and Eve,
He
doesn't
could, but
know,
he
like,
chooses
could
not
have.
to.
Maybe that's why he wanted to go through all of this stuff. Maybe he wanted to play detective. Maybe he wanted to know how detectives felt.
You're
you know?
right. He could just not use it. It's like how,
Exactly.
Superman, it's like Clark Kent sometimes takes the train, just to kind of
Exactly.
feel the
Exactly.
ground
He can
beneath his
just
feet a little bit.
exactly. He can just not use it because sometimes it's fine. Or like Superman doesn't always put like laser beams out of his eyes, right? Like he doesn't always do it. He can control it. He's just like Jehovah.
It keeps coming back to bite Jehovah though, because like 3 days after he invented humans, he didn't even take that long for this gut-wrenching rebellion to happen.
The moment he decides to not think about it, it's the moment things go wrong.
And also, I mean, I don't think I really emphasized this enough in my waking up video, which is remarkable considering it's like 3 hours long. But like, this really was a critical turning point for me, is because I had to give. I was a servant, and I had to give this talk about why God allows suffering. So I had to go over this shit about the Garden of Eden a million times, and I would try and improve my talk to try and make it make more sense. But the more I would think about, like, wait, I feel like this isn't the best option, because out of all the infinite options in the universe, he chose one that condemned, untold billions of people to die.
See, you needed this year's convention, Jake.
You're
of how
so right.
In this year's convention, they say that's got being patient.
I know.
That's got to be patient. And you just have to learn to be patient like he is. Patient is just waiting for 7,000 years and billions upon billions upon billions to suffer and die to prove a point. He's just being patient.
Yeah, and
be petty patient.
He analyzed all the evidence, all the facts. He thought, okay, do I want to punish every child ever for the rest of the next thousands and thousands of years because of something that their parents did that they had no control over? Yes, I do want to do that. I'm going to absolutely make a bunch of babies die, and we're going to make sure like people get diseases and suffer because of
gonna create some virus and bacteria because I didn't have some of that. Like I'm gonna have to make some of that stuff up, I guess.
I created this shit for summer. I thought I was just going to mess around with it on Jupiter. Nothing's ever going on Jupiter. But no, I think I'm just going to put him to practice now. So it all works out, my little laboratory on Jupiter. And that's what he says in the Bible.
Yes, he's like, this mosquito thing, man. I thought it was just going to be for Jupiter alone because this is going to kill a lot of humans. But now that that's an option, that's on the table, might as well.
Also, I will now unpause it, but generous super chat from Jaeger's C137, $20. That sounds like a Star Wars name. Also sounds a little bit like Frank Jaeger.
That's really nice.
Fox from
really
Metal Gear
nice.
Solid.
And hundreds of years later, with the nation of Israel, they would repeatedly abandon Jehovah. What would he do? He would hear their groanings. He would hear their cries. He would see their changed attitude, and he would raise up judges to save them time after time.
He raised up a
Jehovah
bureaucracy.
God shows us what real understanding is. And because we trust in him, we too can find the good, speak and act kindly and positively. And how refreshing it is to see this in your class. Your kind, positive speech and actions with one another and with those that you come in contact with has been very refreshing to see. It's a result of your deep trust.
But I mean, like, what's he going to say? Now, unlike every other class in the 80 years of Gilead, you guys sucked. You didn't listen. You wouldn't shut up. You wouldn't raise your hand. You were throwing...
You guys did not learn shit.
You throw just fucking spitballs at me.
By the way, Mimi has just said what I've been thinking. Those are kind of small hands, right? Like that's not just
Does he have Trump hands a little bit?
He has Trump hands. And I'm just here. If you see me looking over here, it's because I'm taking notes. I'm not rolling another one.
Not at all.
Just me.
No.
I have a notepad over here, and I'm taking notes.
Let's look at these delicate little baby hands he has.
In God's word.
Oh, they are.
And your deep trust in Jehovah himself. And your studies have just further enhanced
Tiny
that
hands.
over these past few months. In contrast, much of the world's education fosters critical thinking.
Aha.
And note what the Watchtower
want
says
that.
about this.
All right, so he's citing his source. He's like, now the world says critical thinking is good, but I'm going to cite my source, which is the magazine company that I work for and that my guys write. And let's see what they have to say about
The worst part is that he could have probably found a lot of sources from pretty much anybody saying how critical thinking is good. Like he didn't have to go to Watchtower. No, I know, but when he's saying, "Oh, universities say that critical thinking is good,"
oh yeah,
he shouldn't be saying, "Yeah, like this university." You know, like he could definitely cite sources for that.
It's like based. It's also like. Sorry, that was very fun. John the Preacher has been popping off with some good stuff in the chat. Yeah, I forgot what I was fucking saying. I'm so sorry. Oh yeah, critical thinking. Yeah, I think it's cowardly too, right? Because they have been called out by like some scientists whose quotes they've misused, and I think they want to avoid that, so they won't even cite their sources. Now, I will say this: we didn't watch the very boring one-word smile guy. What's his name? Mark Sanderson's talk. But he starts out by citing a poem, and he actually cites the poet. And I don't remember who it is. But it is pretty.
I didn't hear that.
Pretty remarkable. Yeah. Well,
first time citing their sources? That's unheard of.
Yeah. Well, it's just a nice poem about being nice.
Fosters critical thinking. And note what the Watchtower says about this. We quote, "Do not be fooled by the mistaken notion that a cynical, critical, pessimistic attitude is the same as intelligence. Actually, negative thinking demands little of the intellect."
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So he says, now the world, on one hand, promotes critical thinking. On the other hand, so this random Watchtower says that having a cynical, critical attitude is bad. And it's like, okay.
First of all, it's obviously a non sequitur. And second, it's he wants to portray, he's saying that the world is lying to you and telling you that you should. Oh man, I can't find a way to explain it. Basically, anyway, I'll find a way to explain it later. You can take over from now. I think I'm just gonna roll over right now.
You're totally fine. I was distracted by skeptics counter saying small hands are a side effect of the accelerated cloning process. True. Somehow Tony Moore has returned.
That is true. I'm telling you, he's speaking through the sun. He's speaking through the sun.
This is like the Snoke edition of Anthony Moore. The soul is slowly taking over the Strand cast, the canonical name for what those clone bodies are called. And we all know this. I'm sorry about getting bogged up in stuff we all know, like about cloning and Strand cast and how Sith resurrect themselves.
So what a privilege to know, as you, dear students, do, what real understanding is. It's not just the ability to identify.
Real students do this. Yeah. So I just, this is a good.
Oh no, Jake just, I don't know if that was the puppy or the cat. Check in the chat, which was it? Who is the guilty one that from about Jake not having his microphone active right now? Is it the cat or is it the puppy? Or in By the Seas says, this in a small sentence is one of my largest problems with the organization. Not developing critical thinking keeps you from being able to help progress the human race. Takes you out of the equation. And that's correct. The Jehovah's Witnesses basically don't think that it's very, oh wow, Jake just left. Let's just wait for him. The Jehovah's Witnesses basically don't think that anything that progresses the human race is useful. They would tell you that Tony Morris comes to mind, that when he was talking about how we won't need doctors and lawyers in the new system. We will need builders and all of that stuff that they just so happen to also need at Bethel. So yeah, no, definitely. What's up? Who was it? Was it the cat or was it the puppy?
Skeptics and Scoundrels is correct, as
Yes.
chaotic evil of cats
Yes.
prevailed.
Yeah.
I think that Peaches is currently snuggling with the wifey.
Well, I don't know, because I know that Peaches just did a little something right before the stream, so I
It's
didn't
true.
know who was the most devious one.
It's true. Danny had the pleasure of being in the StreamYard a couple minutes early and hear me and Christina react to Peaches
It's a
taking a
privilege.
nice dump on her potty pad right next to me. It was great. So that was really all I wanted to see from Jesse Morris's talk. This absolutely bananas conflation of critical thinking with negative thinking. This is why it can be like talking to a brick wall when you're trying to talk to your family members and friends about your doubts about the organization when you wake up, because what they're hearing is you're being so negative about the organization. Why are you doing that? They genuinely don't think that critical thinking means analytical thinking.
Yeah, that's why you're not supposed to watch documentaries and stuff about the Jehovah's Witnesses, because they will not say the the nicest stuff about them. They would probably be critical about them, and that is hatred. They signify being critical with being hated upon. So, and we've heard that multiple times. We've heard David explain in the last convention saying how you apostates have nothing to offer but negative and critical thinking, not even talking about whether or not it's the true or not. So this is just it's unfortunately it's culty, but it's not new. Wouldn't you agree?
It is not. That's a very good point. One of my next big project after I finish this convention thing is to remake my David Splain rebuttal video that I did.
No. It should be to do the C compilation.
Wait, no, that's good. That's true.
Let's see. That is in it. But once you finish that, you mean?
Well, the other thing is I thought like late last night as I was going to bed, I should make a Succession style intro for like JW Broadcasting. But so that'll stay tuned. A lot of fun projects coming up on the channel. Now to come up on my notes here. To come up on my notes, that doesn't make sense. I'm just going to clip forward because this is obviously the most boring series of talks ever. But there are a few interesting things,
right?
Yeah. Now, this gentleman here, I was interested to see his talk, and I was fairly disappointed, I have to say. Last year, when Jags at 2020 and I covered the Gilead graduation, this guy gave an unexpectedly really interesting talk that kind of went off book a little bit with JW doctrine. It was a real freewheeling talk, but this talk is very boring and sucks. And he stumbles over his words a lot, something that we do not do and have never done on this particular stream.
What an idiot. Stumbling over his words. What an idiot.
Yeah. So, let alone stumbling over the screen itself, that would be that'd be really embarrassing, especially if it wasn't like the first time it happened. I got to shout out my boy here. Thank you for covering like a pro.
I'm just high.
Seamless. Well, see, this is another lie of the organization. Drugs make you great and they make your brain work fast.
Notice in Acts chapter 15.
I'm just playing a little bit of context here because what his talk is about is basically, and what all these talks about are follow the leader, follow direction, be subservient no matter what. But what he's going to be talking about in this verse here is what if you're disappointed in the assignment that you get? All of these people at Gilead at their graduation are going to be assigned to live somewhere. And it might be in a country whose language they don't speak, or it might just be their home congregation. They have no idea, nor do they have any control over it. So that's what he's trying to get ahead of here.
Yeah, they can live in huts or they can live in the city. It really is. It doesn't matter. It's you can't control it.
Although, if you are assigned, I would think, to a branch territory as a Gilead grad, you would probably be signed to like live in the branch facility. Maybe I'm wrong. I guess I don't know. Could be wrong about that.
So that they separated from each other, and Barnabas took Mark along and sailed away to Cyprus. Denied an opportunity, denied a privilege, what does Mark do? It says he sailed away with Barnabas to Cyprus. Mark kept active in Jehovah's service.
So this is something to keep foreshadowing my upcoming convention video. I discovered that this is such an important part of these conventions and talks and broadcasts. You know, it's putting modern JW language into Bible accounts. So like Paul and Barnabas like didn't get assignments the way that Jehovah's Witnesses get assignments. Like Paul followed the Holy Spirit. That's what that guy thought he was doing. He listened to the whims of the Holy Spirit. He stepped over into Macedonia because of the Holy Spirit, right? But he wants to make it seem like they had a disappointing assignment, but they remained in full-time service to Jehovah.
They were still preaching the 80 hours back then. They were still it was 100 hours back then. They were still regularly pioneering, even though they didn't like the assignment that they got.
Yeah. And, you know, I want to shout out this comment. You conflated critical thinking with negative thinking. Do they even research before they give their talks? I think this is very, very intentional because they know.
Is critical thinking. Critical thinking is negative thinking. So, no, they don't research.
Well, good point. Good point. The real catch-22. But I also think that what they're doing is incredibly intentional because what they hear from their critics is the need for victims of cult brainwashing and shit to do critical thinking. And they know that when people go to college, pursue higher education, they learn critical thinking skills. And that's when they suspiciously lose a lot of members, which is why they discourage it. So I think it's very intentional that they do this. You know, being critical can mean being overly nitpicky and negative. So it's like, they're not technically lying, but they're obviously trying to invite this conflation to their members. They want their members to think, if I hear somebody saying I need to think critically about my religion, that means think mean thoughts.
Yes. That's be mean to your religion, and that's
mean.
bad.
Why are you being mean? Yeah.
I bet that'll make Jehovah sad.
Don't make Jehovah sad.
So bad.
Make him happy. So we're going to make Satan happy by skipping over some of this talk here because we have some more words being put in the words of Bible writers.
John Mark. Interestingly, for all that we know about Timothy, there are no words recorded of Timothy's in the scriptures. And yet, John Mark wrote a gospel. And as a typical under-rower, he never mentioned his name. So when we put the pieces together...
Okay. I actually didn't catch this, but this is not... This is a very interesting interpretation of why the Bible... why this particular book of the Bible isn't named. It's not because of so much humility. It's because they don't know. And a lot of these Bible writers were written pseudonymously. They were not actually written by Paul, but it was written by people who were saying that they were Paul. So he's just like, this guy, so humble, so down to earth, he didn't even sign his name on this book, which is...
He had the assignment of writing the book and didn't even sign it. Isn't he nice?
Creative bit of apologia there. But also it kind of goes to their benefit too, where they make it out to be that like, we don't put our writers' names on our articles or Bibles, but that's actually bad because then you can't look up anybody's credentials.
Exactly.
You wouldn't want to read a medical textbook written by anonymous, someone who may or may not be a doctor. You know, it's not good that their translation of the Bible doesn't have the translators listed, but they view this as
no. They were like the Bible writers. Some Bible writers were just like this Bible translators, humble. That's
like
the way
these
to describe
guys.
it.
Yeah, this is a real humble guy right here. And he's about to say some nice theocratic terms.
Of what is shared of John Mark in the scriptures, we get a portrait of a man who was, one, zealous for promoting the good news in the worldwide field, and two, happy to serve others. This alone is worthy of our imitation.
the worldwide field. It's not what they called it.
That's how they called it back then. Jake, what are you talking about?
I'm going to go out in the field ministry, Barnabas.
They're pioneers. It's just they forgot to write that in the Bible. That's part of the restorationist a bit of the Jehovah's Witnesses. They're not just restoring Jehovah's name; they're also restoring being a pioneer and a publisher and all in the worldwide work.
Yeah. Okay. Insane. Very boring and bad talk. Now, the next clip, I think it's a different guy. Oh, yes. It is creepy. Oh, I wish Jenny Bloom was here in chat, because I do. As soon as I saw this guy, I was like, it's the guy who eats baby souls. This guy showed up.
He has to talk about insects in the Friday afternoon session, and I'm like,
Oh, no.
Did they pick the most bug-like?
They
person
picked
to
the
give
bug.
like that, and I felt bad. I felt bad because I'm like, I'm making fun of someone's face. They have no control over that. They have no control of how much they look like a bug. But man, they look like a bug.
I mean, let's just. I got to do this. I mean, you said he looks like a bug, and I did a very quick search because I immediately was like, yeah, he looks like one of the ants from Ants. And yeah, he does.
Yes.
This is
yes,
Z.
Oh my God. Put it side by side. Can you put it side by side?
I don't think
Jesus.
I know how. I don't have enough technology.
It is very hard. It is very hard.
It is
but
very
yeah,
hard.
no, he 100. Like just keep it in your head. Keep that image in your head, chat. Just keep that image.
This guy is the love child between Z and Hopper from A Bug's Life. And I also see My Little Pimo. Yeah, this is a creepy one. Okay. So, this, in my opinion, is priming members to follow irrational orders. So let's watch a little bit of this.
7 times. Follow this route to the Red Sea. Did you figure it out? Jehovah was providing his people with direction. And in the case of these examples, sometimes that direction could appear to be, let's say, a bit unusual. It's not too hard for us to imagine Noah responding, and you want me to build a massive ark? Or Gideon asking, just 300 men against an army of 135,000? Are you sure?
Any John Mulaney fans, I'm just imagining him saying, you want me to do what? Like, that's his entire cadence. But, pay attention to his work. Ignore his bug-like early 2000s DreamWorks animation features.
And they're not bugs, Jake. Come on.
And pay
better than that.
And pay attention to what he's saying, because he's like, God gave all these people in the Bible a bunch of weird, irrational instructions that seem insane. And they could have questioned him.
They could have been like, what, are we really gonna fit all of the animals in one ark? And that sounds insane. That sounds crazy. But they didn't. They didn't.
That's crazy.
Or Joshua replying, march around Jericho 7 times and just blow our horns? That's it? Or Moses saying, why are we headed to the Red Sea when I believe there is a much more direct route to the promised land? They all could have responded in such ways.
Ways such as, you want me to do what? So I gotta present, just because I gotta get this out of my head now. I have to watch this. That's all I wanted was, you know what I mean, to do. Well, but yeah, that's what the Bible writers could have done, actually, Caleb. But they didn't.
Definitely.
Even though God made them gay on accident.
They could have. They could have questioned.
But they weren't stupid assholes who would ever question what Jehovah says.
But did they?
Oh, wait,
Let's allow the Bible to help us find the answer. Genesis chapter 6. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 22, we find that Noah did according to all that God had commanded him. He did just so. In fact, in the examples we've mentioned, they all did just so.
What, all of them? Even Noah? So that's
not all of them, but the ones that didn't got killed. So
right.
We don't talk about those.
But he's ramping up to the big reveal. You'll never guess where he's going with this.
The direction might not have been what they expected, but they humbly made the mental turn, so to speak, and they followed the divine guidance wherever it was taking them. And because they did, they saved not only themselves, but all those that were with them. Clearly, the one leading them was Jehovah. And by this,
yeah, because that's who they got their orders from.
Yes,
yes. Clearly, because that's what they got their orders like directly. Jesus,
yes, very good.
They didn't have any doubts that Jehovah was guiding them. Yeah, because Jehovah was guiding them literally. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, Noah at least.
I basically just stole what Caitlin just
no.
Just, at the end of the day, I am a Jehovah's Witness man. I have to steal my good ideas from them.
She stole my comment. Yeah, I had the same thought though when I was watching this earlier. Like, obviously Noah, at least, well, let's pretend he was a real guy. He got orders directly from God. Moses, talked to the burning bush. This is not the same as the 8 or 9 guys who run our publishing company say that they talk to God, but not even really that. They don't even say that they talk to him. They just say that they study the Bible real hard and can discern his will.
The voice of Jesus nowadays.
Yeah, right. Also, it's not even that. It's Jesus. They don't talk about Jesus at all in this thing. It's all Jehovah.
They were in effect saying to him, "Where you go, I will go." Well, what about you, dear graduates, here before us today? Like those faithful ones of old, you are not alone in navigating your way. Jehovah is where he has always been, at the helm,
non-existent,
guiding his people.
Away.
The only difference is today,
busy doing something
Jehovah is providing direction through his faithful and discreet slave. And it is due to our limited understanding that
he said it. He said the thing.
Yep.
Well, you got to listen to Jehovah. And by that, we mean our cult leaders.
The governing body.
We mean this group of weird, slimy, misogynistic opportunists.
Not anymore is anymore, though. Not anymore is anymore.
No, we got rid of one, although his son is coming up the middle, trying to, really, I don't know. Is this like, are all the governing body helpers kind of like the people in succession or like a presidential nomination where they're all like, it could be me. If I just stick around and I really put myself out there. Like, is Jesse Morris gunning for the seat?
I think it would be very interesting to know who is anointed. It kills me that we don't know who is anointed, because I bet the more smile talkers, like the most smile talkers and like people like that are anointed or that profess to be of the anointed, I think they're like that. I think they're like, I may be next. If I stick around, I may be next.
Because you're taking I mean, you're claiming your territory. You're like, hey, I'm one of the guys. There's only so many anointed people left on earth, so might as well be me.
Yeah, I think when you're one of the anointed, you automatically think I may be one of the governing body one day.
You know, it's just like anybody who
Unless you're a woman, obviously.
runs for mayor is like, but also maybe one day I could be president.
Exactly. Every single person that has run for mayor has thought that they could run for
They
president
think
one day.
at least a
And
little bit.
it's like that. It's like that. Every single person that professes to be of the anointed, they're like, I could be in the governing body one day. I just give me a little bit of time.
But much like
Jehovah willing.
yeah, and like much like there's that expression like anybody deserving of worship wouldn't actually demand it, you know? Like anybody who like deserves to be president probably would never run because they wouldn't have the hubris to think that they could do it. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like that with all these anointed people. Like you really are saying like I know that the earth has consisted of billions of people over the course of billions of years. But I'm one of the guys. I think I'm one of just a couple guys.
I think you're onto something, and I think that this ties back onto what we were talking about on Tony Morris and was he kicked out? Because it's kind of surprised that doesn't happen more often. Because you would think that it would, because everybody in the governing body, all of them are a narcissist. Because you kind of have to be a narcissist to think that you are one of the guys. You're one
Yeah.
of the 144,000. Like, if that, what other kind of delusion could you possibly have for you to profess to be of the anointed, if not narcissism? So it blows my mind that we don't get we don't have a more drama happening in the governing body, that we don't, it's not more tumultuous, because I can't imagine any of them would be the kind of person that you want to have a beer with, you know, except Tony Morris, which is why he's no longer around.
Oh, My Little Pimo. I didn't realize that was a Douglas Adams quote. I should have known. I love Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Love that series. I knew that I'd quoted someone smart. I assumed it was me. I assumed it was just something I had said earlier today.
I thought I said it and then you stole it from me.
Like you stole that comment earlier. Okay.
Yes.
No. Okay. So this is that's what he's saying. Listen to the governing body. It's the same as when Moses literally talked to God. Now, the thing, speaking of narcissism, a big part of this entire program is just flattery, just flattering the group of people, flattering the room. And I forgot to play it, but in the guy's introduction to the annual meeting, I forget which person it was, he says something along the lines of, this is a parting gift to the graduates. The parting gift is more fucking talks.
Oh yeah.
But
these talks are kind of about you.
Yeah. And old Jesse Mo, J Mo, earlier said, you're just this amazing class. It was really refreshing to see your attitude. So they are buttering them up and painting them as really important. And this next little bit will get into that and what their actual jobs are.
Interned as a group I do not know, but I'm sure they numbered into the thousands.
He's talking about birds. He talks very poetically about birds that he saw one time. It's very weird.
And as they swirled and turned,
was he afraid of him because he's a bug?
It was a beautiful, magnificent sight to behold. What's interesting is that scientists think that each bird focuses not on the entire flock, but on just a few of its most nearest neighbors in flight.
Most nearest. This guy's from the teaching committee now, talking about the most nearest stuff. I maintain that this is the best opening line to a book ever. Is in the beginning the universe was created. This has made many people very angry, as widely considered or regarded as a bad move. Very good. And it's true. I don't know if it was worth it.
When those near them turn, they turn. Each one does this, creating a sort of harmonious wave effect.
This guy should join the Suspiria dance company.
Well, in a similar way, When we display by our speech and actions the mindset, Jehovah, where
He's really good
you
with
and
his
your
hand
slave
gestures.
go, I will go, we motivate others near us to do the same.
Ah,
Is he
When a
rapping?
change in theocratic
was that?
Is he rapping? It's just
He's like
The way
doing the
that he's
Happy Hands
moving.
Club from Napoleon Dynamite. Oh no, was there a glitch? If there's something, if there's like a weird edit in the talk, let me know, because I didn't notice it earlier, but I was mostly listening to it. So he's talking about how great birds are because they follow the birds in front of them, and their job is to be good examples so that the congregation can follow them. Now, what might they have to set an example for? You might be wondering.
us to do the same. When a change in theocratic direction comes and we make the turn, then our spiritual brothers and sisters make the turn with us.
Aha.
And when Jehovah's people turn in sync in mid-flight, so to speak, it is a beautiful thing in the eyes of Jehovah.
Uh-huh.
Doors, trust me, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not a single biblical text he can quote that will support that narrative. Not
No.
even a single one. What
No.
you should follow is God or the Holy Spirit or Christ or one of those sources. You should never, ever follow humans. Following humans is always bad. So it's insane because he's saying, oh, it's beautiful towards God. Source? Where is your source? Please give me a source on that because you will not find it.
Yes, exactly. He's using so many words to be like, it's nice when people work together. Like, yeah, no shit. That's what you guys talk about all day, every day, is unity in the organization. They've heard that. I'm sure that 90% of what they heard in this stupid class was just listen
Unity.
to direction, be a good
Yeah.
example, listen to direction. And yeah, I agree, Nathaniel Medrano. Sounds like they're buttering them up for some big doctrinal change. Like this, just like they've been doing this. They're like, they've been priming the
I think
members
they
for
always
it.
butter them up, though. Like, I think they always
Yeah,
butter
yeah,
them up.
exactly.
Like, they're buttering them up, I think, so they can be good company men or company people when they go out. So they can apply what they've learned, which is basically apply whatever we say. I think that's all there's to it. Whenever there's, it's just, I don't know. Whenever there's a possibility for something exciting happening within the Jehovah's Witness religion, I shut it down. I'm like, they're never exciting.
I don't think it's specifically like that they have some big, cool, exciting doctrinal change. I think it's just in general, they know that they change their shit all the time. And they want to make sure that they install loyalists at, in as many congregations as possible who are going to ensure that no matter what kind of weird contradictory stuff they put out there, there's going to at least be their base of their guys that they trained to follow the leader.
Yeah, if he has any ulterior motives, if anything, is that he knows that a lot of people are leaving. He knows that a lot of people aren't really staying. Like, he knows that for some reason they're not converting people anymore, and they're not even keeping the people that they have. So he knows that he may know that this is pressing matter, because it is. So when he's talking about please stay with us, he is talking about a pressing matter because they're losing members. We know that they're losing members.
Yeah, and they need these like fully trained up, spent 5 months in the cult hyperbaric chamber people. They need those folks out there to enforce things. I'm getting hungry, and we've already been going for about an hour 45. So
I know I drank a beer and I haven't gone to the bathroom yet.
Whoa!
So I know.
Well, I appreciate everybody's wonderful comments in chat. It was been so fun.
It was been so fun.
It was
been so much fun.
It's not going to be a bitch slap when it happens.
Did you have some comments that were saving for the end?
Oh yeah, there was a nice super chat that says, in one of your early videos, you mentioned writing about video games. Doesn't really love if you've done any VO work. If not, have you considered it? People always say that in the comments that I should do that, but I don't know how I would do that. Like, hey, Hollywood, it's me. I'm gonna read some commercials for you. I don't know. I don't really know how I would get into that, but yeah, if I have any, video game developers looking to add grunts to the background of their weird indie game, I can do it. Or in the words of a Star Wars character, to keep things on brand, I can do it. This has been great. Extra W Caleb, people should subscribe to your channel. True or false?
Nah, false. I think I don't know. It's mostly just regurgitating propaganda. Like it's mostly just I just watch propaganda and then I just talk about it. You can just watch the propaganda if anything.
So take it or
like
leave
you
it.
could have just watched this if anything. Yeah, I'm telling you to leave. It's fine.
No, but you say that, and now I'm thinking it is annoying that I have to listen to this other guy talking when I'm trying to watch cult propaganda. My intention when I go on YouTube is to watch stuff that I could already watch on jw.org by myself, but just on YouTube instead.
Exactly. So don't subscribe. If anything,
Yeah.
unsubscribe.
When you go off and you start like explaining your thoughts and opinions about it, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, don't send me super chats. Charge me.
Yeah.
Send me bills.
So go over there and charge Caleb money.
Yes, please.
And yeah, stay tuned here for actual convention rebuttal. That's crazy. And bye.